what's up?
Hello and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo. On the show this week, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions is a swing away from free roaming, but is it a move for the better?
Let's get started.
We terrify ourselves with the downloadable game Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
We'll see if a story can make Guitar Hero exciting again with Warriors of Rock.
He calls out for help. Warriors are needed to find the ancient weapon and release the hero.
And months after the launch of StarCraft 2, we catch up with some top players and find out how the community has fared. But first, can you guess this mysterious gaming sound?
Easy peasy. I'm off to read the newsie. Sorry about that. In the United States, for the first time ever, legal digital downloads have overtaken the sales of physical boxed copies of games. According to the NPD Group, between January and June this year, Americans bought over 11.2 million games via the internet, eclipsing the 8.2 million games sold in shops. The digital download portals Steam and Direct2Drive led the charge with the #1 and #2 sales slot respectively. More game developers have started spilling the beans on an apparent PSP2 development kit that has started doing the rounds. Sean Himmerich from Mortal Kombat studio NetherRealms was quoted as saying the PSP2 hardware was pretty powerful, with other reports claiming the device will have touch-sensitive controls and even smartphone capabilities. Sony Computer Entertainment is not yet willing to comment on the rumours. Good news for fans of the Raving Rabbids, we're going to be getting a lot more of them. The mascots from Ubisoft's flagship party game series will soon be getting their own TV show, animated by Wallace and Gromit creators Aardman. While Aardman traditionally use a stop-motion style, the new Rabbids series will be made of a mix of CGI and live action. A glitch in Metroid Other M on the Nintendo Wii has resulted in some players getting stuck in the game and unable to progress. The bug revolves around a door in the basement of the Desert Refinery in Sector 3 that remains red and locked, preventing players from advancing. Players that have encountered the bug are encouraged to visit Nintendo.com for details on how to send save files on an SD card to Nintendo so the error can be repaired.
Good game.
I'm always on the lookout for my next great survival horror experience badge, but I have to say when I heard about Amnesia, I was a little bit skeptical. I mean, how much horror can a small downloadable game really give you? Well, about 8 hours actually, and I was quite surprised. Although when you boot up the game, there's this note from the developers telling you that you shouldn't try to win the game, just enjoy the experience, whatever that means.
Yeah, I'm always a bit wary of those kind of disclaimers. I'll play the game my way, thank you very much. I'll do it myself.
My name is I am Daniel.
You play as Daniel, and that's all you really know about yourself to begin with. After stumbling across a letter you've written to yourself, you're asked to descend into the basement of a castle and kill some guy by the name of Alexander,
I must stop him.
who you apparently hate. That's all the motivation I need though, Hex.
The story unfolds as you continue your exploration using click to grab. You interact with objects such as drawers, boxes, and old books. You get a sense of madly rifling through someone's bedroom, flinging objects out of your way as you search for items that'll help you discover what's going on. Puzzle items and objects are almost always hidden in some pocket of the ever-present shadow. And unfortunately for Daniel, who has more than a few screws loose, it's the darkness that drives him further into insanity.
Yeah, it's an interesting use of the old health bar mechanic. Spend too long in the dark and it's your mind that goes. The floor will start to tilt, things become foggy, and bugs just start crawling everywhere. It's all rather unpleasant. How many marbles you're losing can be monitored in the menu along with your health and inventory. You need to collect tinderboxes to light torches and candles throughout the rooms, or find oil for your lantern to keep the area well lit.
You spend most of your time exploring, which is probably my main complaint about the game. I mean, there's only so many drawers I can open searching for a tinderbox before I get a bit restless. On the plus side of things, they've handled the suspense very well. You'll occasionally hear footsteps or screams on a different floor to let you know that you're not alone. You'll also encounter torture chambers and rooms where bizarre experiments have taken place that you know you were involved in, you're just not sure how, because you have amnesia.
My chest is going to burst.
And just when you think every phantom noise in the castle is just that, you encounter your first monster. And here's where things start to get really creepy. Not only can you not fight the monsters, but you can't even look at them. Looking at monsters lowers Daniel's sanity and also increases the chance of the monster finding you. So you spend most of your time just going and hiding in corners and cupboards, but then you go crazy because you're in the dark, and that also makes Daniel insane.
It's a pretty crap situation to be in. This made me so paranoid that I was just jumping into shadowed corners and staring at the wall because I couldn't look at the enemy, and often I was hiding from nothing. But between these moments of paranoia and excitement, you'll start to realize that these enemy encounters are really quite rare. And the puzzles are all pretty simple and not that engaging. You just have to look everywhere for all the items that you need while gathering as many tinderboxes as you can because you need light all the time. Also, the grab mechanic is a little bit awkward too. Often I'd be trying numerous different positions of standing and crouching in front of an object, trying to get that sweet spot in the center of the screen, and I just get frustrated and move on. Final thoughts?
No, it has atmosphere, but I guess ultimately I found that not a lot actually happened. And I understand the game is about taking control away from you and not letting you fight enemies, but it just needed more. It needed more action or something. So I'm giving it 6.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think this is the kind of game that lends itself more towards mystery and suspense rather than action. And I don't know, for me that's scarier. The constant terror of what might be around the corner rather than what is. And as the story unfolded, I really got more engaged. I just wish there was a lot more going on with the puzzles though, because those were really quite boring. So I'm gonna give it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
Well, Barjo, I think we may have a new contender for best wearer of fruit hat in the Den of Gaming.
I think he looks fabulous.
This is our life-size zombie Brian from Dead Rising 2, and we're actually giving him away.
That's right, our Good Game Zombie Comp is currently running on YouTube, in which we challenge you to make a 60-second zombie short.
Your zombie must utter the words "good game," and we've had a few interesting entries so far, Badge. Here's a taste.
What is that? Bridge.
Go. Brian, you've missed it.
The comp is going to be running for most of October, so should you feel the urge to own a zombie, then find out how to enter here. Or look up Good Game Zombie Comp on YouTube.
Good game.
Hex, I think we're at a bit of a crossroads with rhythm games at the moment. After the great rhythm game flood of '09, I think people are just getting burnt out on them. To battle this, some franchises are trying different things, such as Rock Band 3 with real guitars and keyboards.
But Warriors of Rock isn't really doing anything like that, though. It's kind of just more Guitar Hero. But is that such a bad thing?
Let's find out. There's now some kind of story narrated by Gene Simmons about defeating the Beast with a guitar.
A moment of doubt. The beast strikes. The guitar, ancient and powerful, is banished to a cavern deep and foreboding.
All that actually means is that the single player is broken down into set lists for each character and a couple of boss battles. And Rush.
The twin moons, just two pale orbs as they trace their way across the steely sky. I used to think I had a pretty good life here, just plugging into my machine for the day, then watching Temple Vision or reading a Temple paper in the evening.
The sets are grouped loosely by a subgenre of rock that suits the character. Johnny Napalm is punk, Lars Umlaut is metal. There's no separate quests for different instruments or difficulties, so you can play through a bit of the quest on guitar and then change over to drums. And if you get stuck, you can just drop the difficulty down.
Hex, I wasn't so down on the whole story thing at first. I mean, who's ever played Guitar Hero and gone, hey, this needs a story?
Is Johnny worthy to transform into a warrior and fight the beast?
It was just nice having a change from the old lists of songs that get harder.
But it does mean that if you're not a fan of those genres or those particular songs, then too bad. You have to play through them all until you get enough stars and there's no way around it. I guess that's true of all rhythm games though.
Once you get enough stars, they transform into their warrior form and join you on your quest, granting you bonus powers like extra lives or street guards during boss battles.
Johnny, you are now the true embodiment of chaos.
And then once you've beaten the career, you get to go back and do all these sets again with all their powers combined.
And you should throw away everything you thought you knew about earning stars in a Guitar Hero game. If you thought 5 was good, watch this. The powers are gimmicky though. I mean, they just felt like cheats to me. I guess they can help you get through some of those songs that would normally slaughter you, and there is a certain joy in being so overpowered.
And now because of all the powers, you don't earn any score in career mode, so if you want to post up those high scores, you need to do it in Quick Play.
You mean Quick Play Plus?
Yes, songs in Quick Play Plus now have individual challenges which can earn you extra stars, which level you up and unlock guitars and junk.
Yeah, the challenges and the leveling up were nice touches, I thought. In fact, there are quite a few little nice touches throughout the game, like the way they animated the band in Bohemian Rhapsody. That was just gold.
And you can tell that this game is really made for those hardcore Guitar Hero players. Some of the songs are just brutal. Dragon Force, anyone? But I think we should wrap this up, Hex. Final thoughts?
Well, Badge, I'm struggling to rate this one. It's a good Guitar Hero game with a great bunch of songs, and I am really glad that they're reining the series back and just focusing on rock and metal. But I'm just not inspired by these games anymore. I know the Guitar Hero fans will love it though, so I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I felt like I'd played this one a million times already, and some of the powers are gimmicky, but even so, I'm still glad that Guitar Hero is still Guitar Hero. It's pure arcadey, rhythm-based goodness. From me, it's a 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
StarCraft 2, Blizzard's latest blockbuster, arrives on our PCs on July 27 this year, to much anticipation. The original title came out in 1998 and became the benchmark for real-time strategy, selling over 11 million copies and captivating RTS gamers for more than a decade. Now, we're gauging reaction to see if StarCraft 2 is living up to the StarCraft legacy.
I started playing StarCraft 2 in the first phase of the beta. At the moment, I'm definitely top 5 in Australia. I think I'm the best Zerg player. Most top players at the moment would be choosing Terran because they seem like the most strongest, well-rounded race. They have a lot of strategic diversity. They have a lot of different build orders, and with the way they've made the race, with adding add-ons to barracks and factories and starports with reactors and tech labs, they can switch them over at any time they want and completely change their strategy. It gives them a lot of options and creativity compared to the other two races.
We're not going to hit the balance on all the levels perfectly, but we're going to do our best to do that, because at the lowest level, you know, there will be certain imbalances. At the medium tier, there will be certain imbalances at the highest tier.
There's definitely a lot of players around the store that never played StarCraft before. Everyone's calling it Noobcraft 2, just because there's so many new players to StarCraft now. It's been 10 years and there's a whole new gaming generation coming through, especially the PC scene.
The challenges to introduce players to the multiplayer is a good idea. It definitely gives players a taste of what they have to do, the right unit control and the right unit combinations to beat certain units. It'll definitely give them some knowledge about how to play online.
Intaro Tazadar, student. In this simulation, you will learn to control large forces more efficiently.
We've actually put a lot of effort into, I think, breadcrumbing players to where they ultimately can land in competitive gaming if that's what suits them. Ultimately, it's a game that's easy to learn, difficult to master.
Fight only where your superior warcraft will even the odds.
I think we've actually hit our best example of a staged entry into a game.
The macro features they added and the updated UI have definitely made it a better game than the original. New players might have a bit of trouble getting into it. The Zerg mechanic, for instance, would be very difficult for a new player to just pick up because it requires a lot of attention. For other races, they kind of allow you to slack off a little bit, like with the Terran mules. Like if you get to do it once, so like you save up like 100 energy, it costs like 50 energy for a mule. You just put 2 down and you're basically even again. And with the Protoss Chrono Boost, you just keep going and going and going again and again and just use it all up. But with like Zerg, you can only use it every 30 seconds, and you have to do it every 30 seconds or you're going to be behind. It'll definitely punish you if you don't use it properly, and that'll make the better players better.
It's definitely been accepted competitively in the community, and there's a lot happening. Straight off the bat, we've already seen multiple competitions, ladders, tournaments for StarCraft 2, and that's just Australia-wide.
So far in Australia, there's already the biggest league that I've been playing in out of any game I've ever played in Australia. This is definitely the game everyone's been waiting for to come out, and it's definitely going to be the most competitive game.
It's more like the Bible of the RTS. Like, some guys look at it that way. Just the way the previous game, how big it was, I think everyone that never got into the previous StarCraft thought they had to pick it up this time around and just try out what everyone's talking about.
Statistics of hours logged at the cafe since StarCraft 2's launch paint an interesting picture. Overall, StarCraft 2 has been the most popular real-time strategy game in the period since its release. In the first 2 weeks after launch, its use was double that of its nearest RTS rival. After about a month, the numbers had changed. US academic Derek Johnson was part of the modding community for the original StarCraft.
If you do compare the StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2, there's a lot that's very similar about the games. You know, there's more 3D bells and whistles and things like that. You know, there's new units, but in terms of the core mechanics of the game, there's a lot that's unchanged there. And I think that does show that, you know, Blizzard has identified that, you know, aspects of the original that probably should not be changed. I think a large part of the cultural significance surrounding the first StarCraft game did come from the tools that Blizzard provided for users to modify the game. You compare that to StarCraft 2, there's really a lot more you can do. It's an even more robust set of tools for modding the game.
StarCraft 2's mod community has definitely grown really fast. I think within a week there was already a StarCraft 2 Dota map and lots of mini games.
I've seen custom maps in third person.
There are mods that allow you to turn StarCraft engine towards a puzzle-style game like Tetris, towards something like Mario Kart, you know, a racing game. Not just changing the rules of the game, but almost changing the genre.
One obvious feature omitted from the sequel is LAN functionality.
It can greatly affect tournaments if the internet's, say, laggy, or if the Battle.net server's having trouble for some reason. It's going to really affect the tournament play.
Some of the veteran guys have come in and kind of found it different to have to go online to make a match, even though they're playing with someone right next to them.
Dividing the game into 3 single chapters could be good, could be bad. It's bad that we're going to have to pay for 3 copies of the game. But it's good if Blizzard are going to have a lot of time to add new features to the game and continue to look after it. I hope that players playing multiplayer don't have to buy the new version to play with other people that have bought the new version, but we'll wait and see.
Sequels rarely have the same impact as the original. That's not to say that they don't make as much money. The media landscape is, you know, significantly different than it was 12 years ago. The shelf life of any one game has become so much quicker. It's a different playing field for building communities around a game now versus '98 when the first game was released.
I'm standing back kind of and watching to see how the world's going to receive it, but I hope they're as excited as I am, because I really love to watch through other people's eyes their own experiences, and I hope that StarCraft 2 lived up to that for them.
Good game.
The tablet of order and chaos. Selling you on the black market is gonna make me a mint.
Good, you can use a mint. I can smell your breath from here.
Spider-Man!
Developer Beanox have been around for a while now and have a huge resume of ports, including a couple of Spider-Man games. But now they've been let loose with an original Spidey idea in Shattered Dimensions, and it's narrated by Stan Lee himself.
Thanks to Mysterio, a magical stone has been shattered and sent out into 4 dimensions, each with their own version of Spider-Man. Madam Web sends Spidey out to reclaim the fragments from a huge variety of villains who are drawn to the fragments' dark power.
If it isn't the spectacular spider smut!
Oh, dude, pants! No one wants to see your junk.
It's exciting and ambitious to have 4 Spider-Man universes in one game. And this Spider game is all about variety and epic boss battles, and also the differences between each Spider-Man and how you use them. It's not an open-world Spider game like some of the others we're used to, so it is quite different.
The swinging isn't too crash hot though, to be honest. You can tap right trigger to quickly reach a highlight spot or hold it down to swing normally, but you'll often be wrangling the camera to see where to go. And it just didn't feel as good or as responsive as other Spider-Man games, and you never really quite got used to it.
Yeah, I think it's a symptom of the game being of linear design, so they really have to trap Spider-Man in this giant box, and that removes a lot of your freedom. It's not unplayable like Bionic Commando 3D, for example, but in the end, Hex, you know what? I just didn't care, because this is a beat-em-up. It's not really about the swinging. The linear design allows for more interesting scripted moments, especially with the boss fights and all the interactions.
If they dare stop me, think again!
Yoink! Oh, look, you're all wet. Want me to go grab a towel?
It's also a really good-looking game, and I really enjoyed the combat, Hex, especially in the Noir universe, which is all about stealth, kind of like Arkham Asylum.
Gotta grab the shadows and make my play. Take these palookas down one by one.
You'll creep around, separating enemies from the herd, rescuing survivors, and then quickly ducking back to the shadows when you're spotted.
I knew you'd like the Noir universe.
Yeah, it's like Batman and Spider-Man had a love child.
I think it was my favorite too. It just felt like Spider-Man should in a Noir universe. The strength will get you nowhere, and you have to use your speed and zip about taking pot shots against tough enemies. I thought Spider-Man 2099 looked great too. Each boss fight, including the first one, is multi-staged and unique and genuinely challenging.
I have become a being of pure energy, without pants!
I think some may find the ideas behind each level repetitive. You're just chasing one boss and then you beat him at the end, but not once was I bored in this game, Hex. Not once. The goons are all mixed up, and it's a bit like X-Men Origins Wolverine, you know? You have to make your own fun and experiment with the combat, otherwise it'll turn into a boring button masher for you. The fighting system is really quite elegant in some ways. Left trigger locks onto an enemy and also lets you evade bullets. Spidey usually knows exactly what you're trying to hit or throw, and it's quite a hard thing to get right, I think, Hex, when there's so much on screen at once.
Some of the moves, like the web zip evade, are a little bit fiddly, and occasionally Spidey just randomly teleports, but you put up with it because you can get into such a great rhythm when you chain attacks between enemies.
The unlock system is a mix of points and challenges. Each level has a set of unique challenges, and Hex, usually I'm not so bothered in completing these. I'll just do a few by accident and then maybe one more, and that'll keep me happy. But here it's actually required to get to the next level of upgrade, so there's incentive to do it. Plus, they're kind of fun.
Yeah, and you can track 3 of them on your screen at any time, which is helpful, kind of like a shopping list that you need to complete while you're out. And it's just enough incentive to make you want to do them. But what about the wall climbing budget?
The camera. The wall climbing is just dreadful. You're always fighting the camera, and it's particularly frustrating in Noir because you spend much of your time trying to line up those stealth kills from a spot on the wall.
Jeez, he's right there!
And you have to finesse it into this very particular spot before you can do a wall takedown, and so that's frustrating. Once again, I didn't really care that much, and you're not on the wall that much of the time, so it's not a deal breaker, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, that bugged me a fair bit. I did like the little scenarios for each villain, though.
Welcome, Spider-Man. Look around, know where you are.
There's a good selection, each with their own beautiful cutscenes, and the unlocked concept art is gorgeous. I think they could have done a bit of a better job with the story, though, Barjo. I mean, I understand why Spidey was trying to get all these fragments back, but I would have preferred more than just a menu select screen to link all those elements together.
Gotta hurry up and find the next fragment. And there it is.
All of the Spidey voice actors, including Neil Patrick Harris, have voiced Spider-Man before in some way or another, so for fans, it'll all be quite familiar. At E3 this year, we spoke to one of the developers behind the game, and here's what he had to say.
I'm going to tear this world apart!
We've been part of some of the projects in the past, but since there were ports, we didn't have any creative input. And so this time around, we have full creativity. I mean, we're responsible, you know, for the whole game. Everything is, you know, from our own imagination. We asked ourselves, is there anything in the comic books that we haven't seen yet in a video game? So we looked at the different universes, and then we realized that there are multiple dimensions, multiple worlds in which Spider-Man was, but never been sort of brought to a video game format.
Across many dimensions, these 4 fearless Spider-Men, in all their various incarnations, must fight to reassemble the Tablet of Order and Chaos.
Hex, I'm a sucker for even a half-decent superhero game, but I think they've done a really good job here, and I think Spider-Man fans will get a lot out of it, and it's inspired me to become more of a Spidey fan myself, so I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
You know, I love the way they mask the loading with those little first-person linking scenes. It's a solid Spidey game with 10 hours of gameplay, so I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
So did you guess the gaming sound for this week?
That's right, it was the wonderfully retro intro to Spider-Man on the Sega Mega Drive and Super Nintendo. Based on the Spidey animated series, this was a good old side-scrolling beat-em-up.
Well, that's all we have time for this week, but we will be back, of course, next week with a slew of new game releases, including Enslaved and Castlevania Lords of Shadow. But before we go, we should check in with our friends from across the sea, Kyle and Jeremy from Pure Ownage, whose TV show is premiering tonight on ABC2 right after us. How you going, guys?
Hi.
Oh, hey, noobs. Just wondering, you still got the taste of my balls in your mouth? Dude, we totally owned you. The Raffle Cup was Raffle, all right.
I think everybody knows that we just let you win because of your fragile egos.
They owned you pretty bad, Bajo.
Well, shows. So what's on the show tonight, guys?
Well, the show's mostly about gaming and online culture. Pretty much we follow around Jeremy and friends as they try to own up this place called RL.
Oh, and we're gonna also show clips of us owning you in the Raffle Cup. But this time in like slow motion to be like, oh, Badger, don't cry. Oh, those tears taste good.
All right, guys, well, good luck with the show in Australia, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, thanks a lot. Catch you guys later.
Bye.
That's the last time we're doing that. Until next week, gamers, Bajo out.
Hex out.
I have an ego too, and it hurts.
Oh, Badger wants more, yeah. Badger wants some more Raffle Cup on it, yeah. Oh, yeah, on the camera. Maybe the camera wants some of that too. What is the microphone? Come on, microphone. Come on.
Good game.